Welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast, the only podcast for dance studio owners, where each week we bring you business growth strategies to help you increase your profits, impact the lives of more students, while ensuring you get back some time to have a little life outside of the studio. It's time for you to become the go-to studio in your area. Now, here's your host, founder of the Dance Studio Owners Association, Clint Salter.
Hello, Dance Studio owners. It's Clint Salter here. Thank you for joining us on today's episode. And you might have noticed that we have had a little bit of a rebrand. This podcast is now called Transform My Dance Studio. Now, why did I change it? Well, a lot of you know of Studio Success Formula, and that is our signature program. That is the name of our program. It's a 12-week online course where we help dance studio owners to become more profitable really in their business and get the right business systems in place so that they can scale their business without it consuming every waking second of their days. And so I was thinking bigger, because a lot of you are members of our Dance Studio Owners Association, and we have blogs, and we obviously have this podcast, and we do a lot of trainings, and we run a lot of events. And so what I decided to do was to keep Studio Success Formula as the name of our program, but I wanted to give the podcast its own name. So it's now called Transform My Dance Studio, because that's exactly what our aim is here at the Dance Studio Owners Association, is to give you the tools and resources to really transform your business and your life. So I hope you like the new intro, and I'm really thrilled to bring you today's guest. But before I jump in, I've packed my bags and I'm about to head off to the UK this week to speak at the Dance Teacher Hub Retreat, which is happening just outside of London. You can get all the details on our website, dancestudioownersassociation.com. And then I'm heading off to speak, be the keynote speaker at the Baby Ballet Annual Conference with my friend Claire O'Connor, who runs an amazing business. Over 70 franchisees in the UK have her Baby Ballet program, and I'm presenting to them a couple of workshops during the 2-day event. And then I'm heading over to the US, and we've got some events there. You can check out all the event information on our website. But today I'm really thrilled to bring you our guest. Now, this might be a little bit of a different one for you. Her name is Sheevaun Moran, and she's a business advisor, she's a master coach, and an energy thought leader. And we're going to get a bit more into what that means inside of the interview. She's the founder of Energetic Solutions, where she, really created this business to help entrepreneurs and individuals to achieve amazing results using some unconventional, ancient principles. And so as studio owners, I think we get burnout a little bit, right? We get burnout, we get overwhelmed, and she's really about bringing you back to clarity, how to get clarity, how to get rid of all the garbage and the clutter, and how to make things really simple and become the person you need to become really to have the success. So this interview is for you if maybe you are feeling a little bit like, I don't want to get out of bed today, or I'm kind of over this studio owner thing. And it's okay, we all get over it. And I think it's okay for us to say, I'm having one of those days where, being a barista with that loud music and dancing around the shop looks good right now. And so Sheevaun and I chat around all those things. We talk about negative energy and the things that we say to ourselves and the way we communicate to ourselves as studio owners. We talk about repairing our energy levels through rest, nutrition, exercise. We jump into indecision and procrastination, which sometimes as studio owners we can do. Also, something interesting we chatted about was criticism and how to deal with it. I know a lot of us are, jumping online, and maybe there's that angry, crazy parent that might post a bad review or say something in a Facebook group. And so we talk about how to handle that. And lastly, not sweating the small stuff. That saying, in a year's time when I think about this moment, is it going to matter? probably not. So we jump into that. It's a fascinating interview. I mean, Sheevaun has done some amazing work with some big leaders, some small business owners, and she comes from a really interesting background. So I hope you enjoy this interview with Sheevaun Moran. See you next week. Bye for now. Hey, Sheevaun, how are you today?
Oh, I'm awesome. So excited.
Yes, me too. Super excited to be able to bring your message to our studio owners. Now, for our studio owners that don't know about you, Sheevaun, can you tell us a little bit about how you help your clients, entrepreneurs, really take their life and business to the next level?
Yeah, so my first business was at 11. I'm not going to get into that story, but I am a business junkie, and I ended up getting into kind of the woo-woo energy, heart-based stuff on accident. We can talk about that later, but found out that those two come together in a super unique way that gets people out of their drama, their fear, poor leadership skills, and really into numbers and growing a business that it's like secondhand nature.
I love that. So you just mentioned a bit of woo-woo, and you are thought of it as a energy thought leader. So I'd love to know a bit about, some of this work that you're doing, but I want to tap into the energy side of things, because our studio owners sometimes are working 12, 14-hour days, and I've spoken to them at the end of the day and they're like, Clint, I'm worn out. I've got nothing left. How can we maybe help them to maximize their energy during the day?
Yeah, I love that question. I really spent a lot more time on this because in my most recent office, 2 doors down, I had a growing studio owner. They were a ballet studio. And we spent a lot of time talking. I was helping them, make sure that they weren't getting burned out. So I was thinking, okay, what can I give? So here's really what we come up with is people are trained to be exhausted and give everything away. And particularly studio owners, because they've probably gotten into it because they were passionate about it, and somebody said they were a really good teacher and they wanted to share their love for that technique or technology, or really just grow and expand themselves. And so when you do that and you just get into a business like that, you actually exhaust yourself because you don't have any boundaries. You just give every ounce of you away, and that is all your light and brightness. And then the other thing is, we actually, as business owners, not just studio owners, but business owners, we tend to be like, I'm okay, I got it, I'm good. And the pain is just immeasurable. And then the other thing is disappointment. Those are the places that, like, somebody will say something or get you into a tailspin, and disappointment is one of the energetics that we actually get sucked into without even having a clue that we've gone there until far, far later, when we're like raging or mad or pounding on the steering wheel or yelling at somebody or something like that. And then, particularly what I've seen with studio owners is not delegating. I mean, entrepreneurs for sure, but more studio owners, because it's such a heart space business, whether it's a yoga studio or a dance studio. It's just like, oh, no, I got this, has to be my energy in it. And that's true, but it has to be your energy imprint so that you can delegate and grow your business. And then another one is winging it. It's really exhausting when you wing it. It really seems counterintuitive. I mean, like, you go through dance and you learn all of these amazing things, and every time you wing it, you kind of get in trouble, right?
Yeah.
So same thing with business. But like, we get out into our own business and all of a sudden it's like, yay, freedom, I'm going to wing it. And energetically what that does is it makes our energy totally chaotic. And we end up with extreme overwhelm, not just overwhelm. So the energetics of each of these are such, like the exhaustion and giving your stuff away, is that if you have nothing for you, and we kind of know this as humans, but if you have no energy really left in your being, like, you won't be able to make good, creative, highly productive and business growth decisions with ease. And so we actually tend to stop breathing. I mean, it seems like it's the most ludicrous thing to talk about, but it's the most important thing, particularly as a dancer, right, is to breathe. If you don't breathe, what? You pass out, right?
You certainly do.
So same thing with being a business owner. It's like take those principles and bring them into your business.
I mean, there's so much there that I want to kind of dive into. The first thing was around, giving it all away and having no boundaries, something that I see too often. But how do we know, like, where's the line? And I think that's the hard thing for our studio owners who, want to give as much as possible to their students, to their parents, to their teachers. But when is it too much?
Yeah, so here's a great rule of thumb. If you don't have enough energy for yourself, then giving to somebody else is not going to be beneficial. So giving to somebody else is lovely, but I'm going to give you a technique. If that's okay, I can jump in on that. Great. So generally what we do is like, yes, just take everything. Here it is. We'll charge different prices, blah, blah, blah. So then if you can really sit up straight and really have your own zone, it's kind of like what one of my clients used to call it, you give me my Buddha Zen space. And, it's really like, can you be in your inner core middle self in your Buddha Zen space no matter what's going on? And that's actually going to protect your energy, and you can still give. It doesn't mean you give everything away. So that's actually a little tiny boundary that nobody ever talks about.
Yeah, I think that's important. You talked about the fact that, we go, I'm okay. And inside we're having like an absolute meltdown. I mean, I think we all do that at some point as business owners, as studio owners. I mean, what should we be doing when we get in that point of like, I feel like I'm going to explode and I can't hold it in any longer? Ideally, we don't want to get to that point, but what should we be doing? Should we be going to talk to someone? Should we have a therapist? I mean, what are your kind of suggestions for people that go through that?
Yeah, you got to have some cool outlets. So there are some really fundamental rules. I'm about simplicity. So if you are in that I'm okay space, it means you've deprived yourself of a lot of things. And there are 4 things that you start with. One is you probably don't have enough water. The next one is you've probably not been breathing. The next one is you probably don't have enough sleep. And the next one is your body is deprived of good nutrition. So there's the 4 fundamental physical things. And then the energetic things are you have a need to be, I call it the need to be right, meaning I got this, I'm totally good, I'm totally fine. Well, the need to be right leads to, all the other things that we were just mentioning. And it's like, if you can just admit, maybe I don't got this. It's so silly simple, but maybe I don't got this. Maybe I don't have this moment. Maybe there's a solution I haven't seen. It's really ask a new question in the form of maybe there's something here that is going to open up for me. And then what happens, interestingly enough, is your body starts to go, oh, okay, right. I don't have to have every single solution and be the good kid in school and have the perfect answer and the perfect form, etc. And it really releases a lot of tension in the body.
Yeah. I think we, as studio owners, we forget about ourselves sometimes. So I think you touched on some things that we kind of, I heard what you were saying around, enough water, putting the right food in, getting enough sleep, and you go, oh yeah, but we've heard it before, but I think a lot of the times is we're actually not practicing it. We aren't getting enough sleep. We're not drinking enough water. We're finishing class at 9 o'clock and we're going through and getting takeaway and eating it in the car before we get home.
Yeah. And, when I used to see, when I started doing the energy practice and I had multiple locations, I set my day up so somebody would bring me food at a certain time and that I had a certain amount of bottles of water in front of me. And I actually put it on my calendar, drink water now. And then I would put, certain little things until it became a habit. And, with apps and things the way they are today, you can have things delivered at the push of an app and really just automatically. So it's really fascinating how we don't pay attention to ourselves and totally, like, energetically what happens. I'm going to give you a great description. I think your owners will understand this. Is you have all this light and bright and you're excited, then you get a disappointment, a chink in the armor, and then your energy dips. And it actually doesn't ever really go back to the original excitement unless you do something to move in the right direction, like talk with somebody, have a coach, have an accountability partner, a mentor, somebody who can really take you out and get you continuously thinking big. Because once you start going into that small space, you actually, isolate into your own studio.
100% agree with you there. Now, the other interesting thing you touched on was delegation. And it is something that a lot of our studios find difficult to let go of specific tasks. And, in our association and our programs, we teach a lot about delegation and, high value tasks and low value tasks. And, why are you sending out the invoices at 2 a.m. in the morning and those types of things. I'd love you to kind of speak to delegation a little bit more in terms of those first steps of really just being able to let go. And I think a lot of the time it's trust, and sometimes it's, well, no one can do this as good as I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It really requires that you find one thing that somebody is willing to do for you. Often, this is what I heard from this other studio owner. This is a fairly recent experience, so I'm referring to them because it's fairly recent. Is they had one of their students who really wanted to come in and, maybe they were going to barter, maybe they were going to get paid. That wasn't my conversation. But this one particular person in the studio that was there on a regular basis as a student for a long time really wanted to step up and be a contribution. And they weren't going to let her do anything. I said, no, you really need to, just take one thing that she's saying that she can do and see how she does it. And just peel off one tiny thing, don't hand your bookkeeping away to somebody until you're ready to, but, small enough so it's enough small wins. Then what occurs is you're like, oh, right, I can actually do this and I can give that to so-and-so and I can give that to so-and-so. It's really like take one thing that you hear yourself saying that is like, I do not want to do one more of these or I'm going to go insane. That's like the one thing, right?
Yeah.
Give that to that person who is totally chomping at the bit to have it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love that. I love it. So it's small steps, because I think sometimes we think, okay, we delegate. Okay, we've got to get rid of everything straight away, but we can do it gradually so that we feel comfortable with the process.
Yeah, it has to be really small, because if you're bringing somebody in to delegate to, first of all, you don't know what you really want to have delegated. You don't know what your systems are that you want to incorporate. And so if you just take it a little bit at a time and get accustomed to that person, what will happen is that energy imprint. So your imprint of how you do things and who you are and the way you like things will translate into that next person.
Mm. So important. I love it. Great tip there. Now, something that we come across a lot of in our industry is a tendency to focus too much attention on the negative. So whether it be we've got a bad review on our Facebook page, or there's a conflict with a parent, or a student is leaving us and going to another dance studio, find it difficult to let go. So I'd love for you to share a bit about how this habit can be damaging, and also some tips on cutting the cord and how to really overcome those negative thoughts.
This is an awesome topic. one of the pieces that is so important with a negative is to cut the cord first. So we have a technology called Cut the Cord, and we'll give something away to everybody so they understand how it really works. But imagine a samurai sword, and you put that in your hand, and you cut that cord to that negative thought or feeling or worry or whatever. And that way you can have freedom of thought, and really that gives you a little bit of distance. And then to gamify the negative. So this is one of our signature pieces of make it a game. So by a game, what do I mean? I mean, like, say you get a negative review on Yelp. It's like, how can I make them my friend? What can I say to give them something really, really cool? Because you're still going to respond to it internally. Your solar plexus is going to get all wound up, and that's okay. Cut the cord and then say, how can I turn this around into a friendship, into an alliance, into something that's much more positive, and really be take the highest road. Another part of gamify, I mean by like somebody says, oh, so-and-so, and they've been a student for a long time. They went to this other studio. And it's like, okay, they went somewhere else. Well, now I have space for 3 more people because this person went away. It's like, make it a game in your head so that it can't consume you. Because negative energy is very consuming, as we all know.
I think that's, we had one of our association members posted yesterday about one of her teachers letting her know, in 2 weeks, I'm meant to be doing all these classes, but I've got a contract, to work somewhere, else, like a performance job, and so I can't teach for you. And this studio owner was going, my life's over. This is a disaster. I kind of tried to put things into perspective a little bit. But I think, any business owner, but especially with our studio owners, can get highly emotional and attached to certain results that they want as well. So, I mean, how can we, I guess, take a step back and not be so emotionally involved in what is a business?
Yeah. So really when you were talking about that person, is we tend to make every affront or dismissal or negative about something that we have done. And we actually forget that somebody else has their own life and things and dramas and conscious and unconscious patterns, attitudes, programs, and behaviors. And we really take them and make them about something that we have done or haven't done. And then we get into the emotion of anger. And, I suspect you find this because anybody who is in the arts, their right brain's more on, and so their emotions are gonna need to be charged in order actually to take a step. So it's about, what do you do with that charge, and how do you make that a win? And so it's really like, if somebody's afraid or they're in that righteousness. And we go back to really simple things. Cut that cord. Use that samurai sword. Cut that cord. Because I'll explain what that cord is. When you're talking on a line at some point in time on the phone, or like on this call, at some point in time there's going to be a hang up, and then the app will be closed, and that's the disconnection. That's the cord cutting, so to speak, right? Energetically, we actually never get to cut these cords. We don't get to shut them down until we learn how to do it. And the first thing, it is one of the most powerful tools I teach. And it's like, take that samurai sword and just cut. People won't know you're doing it in front of them. I promise. And then all of a sudden your solar plexus will calm down. You'll be like, oh, I can breathe more. Because what's happened is kind of like that internal, we'll call it the negative Nelly, I call them, is they're out coming and they want their vengeance. And it's like, cut that cord. Take a breath. And really, if you can stand up and stretch or do something that makes you happy as far as any of your movements, I believe, because, dance is something I love. Every time I dance, I feel happier. So if you did one silly little dance, it's like, get back into your little childish self. So you can do something silly so that it's like, oh, right, okay, that's really not that big of a deal. This sounds stupid simple, But it's really it's called in ninja and jujitsu and karate and any energy works. It's about moving the obstacle without getting attached. So you're moving and you're redirecting and you're redirecting and you're redirecting. And that's a good leadership tool.
I think so too. I think it's great. Procrastination. Let's talk about that, because it's something I know with our studio owners. Let's say they teach, they wake up in the morning, maybe they've had a late night at teaching. So, they might kind of wake up, later in the morning, and then they might kind of sit around and they're a bit tired, and then they know they've got to go to teaching, and then they teach, and then they go, well, I didn't get any work done today and I feel bad, and I'm kind of just took it easy. I mean, can you talk to us a little bit about indecision and procrastination? Because I think it's something that a lot of us face at some point in our business lives. What can we do to kind of stop doing it, essentially?
Yeah, wouldn't that be the coolest? It's like put a button in our head and say, you no longer procrastinate. But, truth of the matter is, if we're procrastinating, and we all do this, every business owner I've ever helped, is we all do this because, one, we're looking for a shortcut. Two, we're looking to feel good. Or three, we're looking to avoid something, right? So if you can look at the one that's the most egregious, is like avoiding. What are you avoiding? And just say, is there something in here that I need to be doing that is absolutely going to bring a new business? So we're all in business to stay in business and grow. That's really what we're here to do. And it's like, okay, am I avoiding this because I don't want to have another sales conversation? I call customer conversations, sales conversations, no matter what they are. If I don't want to have another sales conversation, I don't want to have another sales conversation with one of my leadership or my team. I really just don't want to deal with it. And I like to get those put into rituals and systems so that it's really set up so that it's kind of like a no-brainer. It's like brushing your teeth is a no-brainer. So pick the one thing that is procrastinated on the most. Say, like what you were saying is late night, kind of taking their time and really know they should, right? It's like pick one thing out of all of that and say, I procrastinate on this most. And then really put that into a system so that it becomes so automatic that you can't just automatically delete it from your brain to be like, oh yeah, I forgot to do that. And now it's too late. And now I'm in trouble.
Because that's what happens. And I find like the more and I do it myself, the more I procrastinate on certain tasks, the bigger the ball gets, and eventually it kind of like bowls me over.
Well, yeah, and what you're describing is this dopamine addiction that we've gotten into to do it at the last minute because we're actually supposedly more creative at the last minute.
Yeah, I've heard that one. I think I've used that one too.
So much less creative at the last minute. I'm going to give an example because I took 3 weeks off to go skiing over the holiday because it was dang cold here. And I had a mission for one of our webinars, and I was like, I really need to come up with this new solution. And I took this one piece of paper that I have a mentor that he had given me, and I just left it out. And I thought, I'm just going to, and I call this meditating on the solution. And hopefully your studio owners will get what I'm talking about. And I put it out everywhere I went, and every day I got to look at it, meditating on the solution. Really wasn't actively focusing intentionally lots of hard stuff on it. It was just there in my visual cortex on a regular basis. And last week we were just finalizing a few things, and it came to me like, boom, got it. So I really had the diagram and the words and the language set and the entire page laid out because I'd spent so much good, healthy time meditating on the solution rather than the, oh my God, I got to hurry up and get it done solution.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. And I think our studios will enjoy that as well, enjoy that process because it's a little bit creative. having that visual there. And changing the way you think about it, which I loved. You just said, instead of thinking, I've got to get this done, it's due, which creates anxiety, I would think, for a lot of people, rather than just having it there, you seeing it and meditating on it and placing in your mind what is the solution, changing that thinking.
And I didn't say, what is the solution? I just said, I know it's going to be a freaking awesome one. This is going to be amazing. This is totally going to be exactly what I've been looking for. And I would just do that every time I looked at it. I'd be like, yep, totally got it. Yep, totally got it. And it took, I marinated for a couple of weeks, which is the best way. And that way you don't end up in the procrastination cycle, which ends up with really bad marketing or weird language or some negative, funky thing that you don't want.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Completely agree with you. Criticism is something that we face as a studio owner, and it could be our students go and compete at a competition, and then a mother says to us, our routine wasn't very good. What happened to our students? They didn't win. We might have someone criticizing the marketing that we've done, someone coming in criticizing the building that we operate our studio out of. I mean, there's a lot of things that studio owners get criticized for, and it can be quite damaging to the soul, really. Mm-hmm. And I know we've touched on some of the strategies already, but what are some of the strategies that our audience can implement to ensure that this doesn't consume them, the criticism doesn't consume them, and can they take something from that criticism that could actually help them?
Yeah, so here's something that's really interesting about this criticism piece. If we and as artists, right? I think every entrepreneur is an artist, but as an artist, you have to have criticism in order to achieve that next level, right? But then we become criticism junkies. We're looking for criticism in order to. So then what we've done is we've gone from the front of the brain to the back of the brain, and now it becomes a habit that we're looking for. And the back of the brain's design is to go out and seek opportunities where people will criticize us. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And so it's really about if you've gotten into that self-fulfilling prophecy, it's like, how am I responsible for this? Is my thinking or my attitude creating this? And if my thinking and the attitude is creating this, and that means we take real full responsibility, and sometimes it does not feel good, I guarantee. It's like, if I take more responsibility for having created this, what can I do to recreate it? So from this perspective, it's like, if you've created it, you're actually the creator of something new. So that means if somebody's criticized you for something like the building or the routine or so on and so forth, it's like, is there a place that I've created that so that now I can go, and you write that down. Yep, found that. Oh, yeah, 3 weeks ago, I was so not happy and I was just raging mad and I created it. Then we can all trace it back if we're really honest with ourselves, right? And then write it down and be like, dang, I'm not going to do that again. Go back to cutting the cord. And then what you want to do is set up a little routine of intentional creation every day so that these things happen less and less and less. If I can, I'll give a story of a teacher client of mine. A couple teachers, I had a whole bunch of slew of teachers at one point in my career. And it was just like I was handling half the teachers in the county. And I was like, well, how can we make the system better? And so I taught them how to go, before they would go into their classroom, before they would even drive to the parking lot of the building, is they would have like a little mantra of what was created. Yeah, my students are receptive, their parents love me, and the community is really grateful. I'm so grateful. This little student who's driving me nuts, you know what? I love them for driving me nuts. It sounds ridiculous. Yes, we are kind of mantraing and affirming, but what we're doing is we're actually setting a clear, solid intention rather than letting somebody, as the business owner, rather than letting somebody else, and I call this pooping on our party, right? And so when we're so crystal clear, like we are when we first start, right? When we're so crystal clear on a regular basis, what occurs is people start then treating us like that. And I'll give one more story that's a personal story. I had a woman who was I think she was an assistant for me. And a little bit bipolar, kind of odd, incredibly detail-oriented, but made a mistake on every single page that she did one day. And I was just like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Really? What happened? And that's all I said. Oh my God, are you kidding me? What happened? I didn't yell. That's all I said. And she went off on a tangent. She blah, blah, blah. And I thought, wow, okay, great. So I cut the cords and I said, yeah, I think it's probably time that we, part company and so on and so forth. I saw her 7 years later. She said, I have not forgotten about that moment and how I overreacted and how I should have come back and apologized to you. And I was like, oh my God, that's been haunting her for 7 years. Right? Because I did non-reaction. I cut the cords and I let it be her problem. So hopefully that will help.
Yeah. Definitely. So much of this today is so relevant to our studio owners. And I just think back to the days where I had my dance studio for 5 years and wish I had this knowledge then. I mean, it's very helpful now as a business owner, but being a studio owner, it is a very different type of business, and our dance studio owners know that. And so, yeah, this has been awesome, Sheevaun. I'd love to wrap up, Sheevaun, by asking you've worked with lots of different business owners, many successful CEOs of companies. So I'd love to ask you, what are your 3 tips for running a successful business? What have you seen? What patterns, habits have you seen in those people that are really doing some great things with their business?
Yeah, one is know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers and how much it costs to get a student, how much it costs for marketing, that know your numbers. So it's like, how long do they stay, and what's the revenue that they get when they stay? How often do you give in on price? That's another know your numbers piece. And then really cut down on your offerings. Make your life simple. How simple can you make your life? We get really, really complicated and say, oh, I'll just offer one more thing and one more thing. It's like, cut down on the offerings. It's so important. And then the other piece is empower others to be your advocate, to be really your marketing message. As soon as people become your marketer, your marketing gets more elegant, gets more clear, and you can reach bigger masses with much more ease. And one of the ways to do that, as far as numbers and getting more advocates, interestingly enough, is social media. And it's like tribe building is so easy on social media, no matter if you have a brick and mortar or not. It is so much easier. And then you get to know your numbers and know different things about what you have the capability to do. So I think those are the 3 core things. And then always get a mentor. It's really helpful. Bypassed us a lot of problems, doesn't it?
Completely. I mean, having a mentor, having someone in your court that has walked the path that you want to walk, I don't think there's anything that can beat it on a business growth level in terms of growing the business, but just also on a personal level, someone that knows what you're going through, the isolation, the trying to build a team, all of those struggles that we go through as business owners. It's not, and I'll use our studio owners because obviously I'm working with them every day, and we joke and laugh about it sometimes. And someone will say, I went home to my husband and I told my husband about this parent and I was angry, and he kind of looked at me and he said, why are you so angry about this? And she's like, that is the worst thing he could have said to me. And I laugh because there's a great speaker and a friend of mine called Christine Hassler, and I helped her with a live event. And I'll never forget, she said in one of her presentations, don't go to Chinese and try and order nachos. you know, because you're not going to get it. And I think it's the same when we're looking for support, you know, and we need kind of someone there next to us. You know, if you know your partner, if they respond always the same way to you, don't think that one time you're going to go to them and they're going to change their response. You know, find other people. I call it like my wisdom circle. I have this circle of 6 people, and each of them play a different part in my life. And some of them are amazing around business. Some of them are great around personal, you know, challenges. And so I always say, create your own wisdom circle of people. And, you know, each person doesn't need to be everything to you.
Yeah, I mean, we get caught up in the I can only have one type of coach, and we get caught up in the lack mentality of that and saying, oh, I only need one. And really, that's not true. I mean, you go through school and you have many different classes. So why would we think that that would be appropriate in our business as well? So it's like the pieces of what you're saying of your spouse or your partner, you know, saying, why would you be so angry? You know, yeah, if they're doing that, it's like, teach them a new way. It's like, say to them, you know, I'm going to complain right now, and I don't need you to say anything other than, I love you, you're amazing, you're totally going to figure it out. And if you have to hand them a post-it note saying that every
say
time,
this.
Exactly, say this to me, it's totally going to make you feel better.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good tip right there. Sheevaun, thank you. I could talk to you for a very long time. Where can our studio owners go to find out more information about you and the work that you do?
Oh, cool. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate you. There are a couple things. We have a thing called Epic Life Toolkit, and it gives a bunch of tools and tips. I'm a little bit of an over-deliverer, as you might have imagined. And you can either get it at SheevaunMoran.com, or if they want to text, I know they're in all over the world, but if they want to text, they can text 1-949-214-4294, and then you get that directly, like, right now.
Awesome. That's great. Cool, Sheevaun. Well, thank you so much again for just sharing this, so much awesomeness with our studio owners. I'm sure it's got them thinking, and hopefully, guys, you go into the day, you know, thinking about what Sheevaun has shared with us. You know, if you have that challenge during the day, if you're criticizing or being criticized, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you've got a lack of energy, you know, think of these things that Sheevaun has so greatly shared with us today. Thanks, Sheevaun. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Clint.
Thank you for joining us today. For all the resource links from the show and to receive access to our free dance studio growth training, make sure you visit transformmydancestudio.com.